Hi, my name is Wilkin Brutus. I am with Cameron Bailey, the art director at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. When people think of festivals, they think of this sort of like 1 week, 2 week thing, and then it's over. But it's a year-long mayhem.
Absolutely,
right?
It is a constant process.
It's a constant
there's some
process.
things for next year's festival we're already working on. And of course, we do lots of other things here at TIFF. So we're running screenings all the time, and we've got people traveling around the world scouting films. So it takes all day.
What exactly does your job entail, and how do you keep the pieces together?
So my job as the artistic director is to essentially oversee the programming, to make sure that we've got the best lineup that we possibly can have, to make sure that the shape of the festival and the depth and the breadth of the programming is what it should be.
Right. Now, does the socio-political and cultural climate outside of cinema affect the way you choose certain films?
Filmmakers are living in the world, they're responding to the world, they're artists, so they want to reflect what their own perspective is on what's going on in the world. That happens.
Right.
And then as programmers, we're also living in the world, we're affected by what's going on, and we see trends happen. We see, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of films about migration, right? Because that's
the story
that
of
is
the day
the story,
right now.
right? And it has been for a while
Right,
now.
right.
And in so many parts of the world, people are trying to get out of really difficult, murderous circumstances somehow and get to better lives. And directors are responding to that, we're responding to that as programmers. We want our audiences to have those conversations about what's going on. And we have a kind of a mission statement at TIFF, which is to try to transform the way people see the world through film. So I think we're always about using the medium of film to reflect on what we're all living through and try to come to a better understanding of the world through the movies.
I guess that's a great segue to the next question is, there's this intersection, this strong intersection between cinema and urban space, how a film can actually help shape public policy. One example is Elizabeth Lowe. She's an independent director, produced and directed a film called Hotel 22, a short film, and it directly impacted public policy. What are your thoughts on the intersection between urban space and film?
Film is one of those rare art forms that is an urban art form, in a way like architecture is. Films came out of cities, right? And they reflect, I think, the urban landscape. A lot of people living together who don't necessarily have so much in common, different to say, living in a village or any other kind of rural setup. And so I think it makes sense that movies actually do impact. And you find that in cities, filmmakers react to whatever the city is feeding them in a way. It might be feeding them aggravation on a daily level, or it might be inspiring them. And the way that cities change a lot. Our city, Toronto, has changed so much in the 40 years that we've been around. It's a much more diverse city now. Half of the people who live in the city of Toronto were not born in Canada, at all. So this is a city of migrants, and you see film reflecting that.
What are your thoughts about the ways in which music helps capture the human spirit and how film helps capture the human condition? What are your thoughts on the universalism of film, the power of film itself?
Well, they're both very emotional art forms. I think they affect you in your heart and your gut, first of all. That's how I think movies really leave their mark on us. There's something sometimes you can't even express in words that you feel when you watch a movie that really has a big impact on you. And music is the same way. You don't have to know the language. You don't have to understand intellectually what's going on in a piece of music to have it just hit you and make your body move physically. And I think movies have that same impact. They can make you cry, they can make you laugh, they can make you tense up and jump. And you don't even know how it's doing that, right? That's the art of a great filmmaker. And what's great is when the two things come together, right? We got a lot of films here at the festival this year that are about music. Everything from Yo-Yo Ma, following the Silk Route, and all of the musicians that
Arcade Fire.
That's right, the Arcade Fire documentary, Keith Richards. Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. So there's a lot of filmmakers who are interested in that marriage between music and film, and sometimes that can produce something very powerful.
So as the art director, how do you curate I guess, smaller films? How do you promote smaller films to compete with the larger films?
I mean, we're lucky in a way because a lot of people who attend the festival, they want to see those smaller films, right? They figure, you know, a lot of these movies are going to come out in theaters in the next weeks or months. They're going to be able to catch up with those films. What they want to see at a festival like ours is the films that they're never going to have another chance to see. You know, a small film from Bangladesh or from Serbia or from Uruguay. Those films may never make it onto Netflix or iTunes or into a movie theater. This is the chance to see them, and our audience knows that, so they really seek those movies out.
Once again, it's my first time in Toronto, first time in Canada itself. Is there a Canadian cultural identity in film and television?
I love that you asked that, because we ask ourselves that
Right.
all the time. So, I mean, this has been the big cultural debate in Canada for decades, and there are a lot of answers to that. One of the kind of the glib answers is Canadian cultural identity is what America isn't, right? That's kind of how we define ourselves in a lot of ways, or that's how we used to define ourselves. But I think there are a lot of very distinct things. I mean, on the film side, for instance, the Canadian industry is, for the most part, in English Canada anyhow, not a commercial industry. In Quebec, it's a little bit different. There are very strong commercial movies that do very well just within Quebec. But the English Canadian industry is an independent cinema industry. It's like if everything in the US was just like movies that went to Sundance. Freedom to make that work, and also the system that funds movies is different. It's not so much private industry. There are government agencies that are just looking for good work. So that's very different, and I think it allows some of those artists to really express themselves.
Is there such thing as film fatigue? You have to, not only do you travel so much, you literally have to watch thousands of films.
I watch hundreds every year,
And so does that affect your system of reality in terms of how you interpret real life things? You're constantly in this sort of matrix. I don't know if everyone ever asked you that.
I don't know if it's the red pill or the blue pill, but I did take one of those. Look, I see about 700 movies every year.
700?
And not all of them are great. Obviously, we only choose a few of those. So when I'm watching a lot of movies and they're just not as strong as maybe they could be, then you get fatigued.
Then you get fatigued.
Yeah. But when you see a great movie, it's inspiring, and it's not, it really illuminates the world that you live in, right? You can go out of the movie theater after you've seen a masterpiece of a film. In Cannes, I watched a film by a Thai filmmaker, Pichapong Weerasethakul, and it's called Cemetery of Splendor. We have it here at the festival as well. And I just floated out of the movie theater afterwards. I was just in the best mood the rest of the day. And I felt like I'm living in a magical
Prince
space
aura
right
behind
now.
you.
There's nothing like it. Right? So when you see a great movie, it can transform the way you see everything else in your life. So
it's awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Cameron Bailey. My name is Wilkin Brutus. You're watching Uji Uji. Thank you so much, and see you more at TIFF. Bye bye.